Joe Biden's presidential campaign officially begun as of April 26, and yet people are trying to knock him out of the running. Only because we're going to flash back a little bit here, because Nevada Democrat politician Lucy Flores claims that Biden was out of line, but not really out of control when he campaigned for her back in 2014. Take a look at what she said on CNN's State of the Union back on March 31st. Clip.
Well, it happened also suddenly. It's, anyone who's ever been at a rally recognizes that there is just chaos. There's a lot of energy, that everyone's running back and forth. Eva Longoria was there. We were all lined up next to the stage. Eva was in front of me. Joe Biden was behind me. I'm kind of preparing myself to give these remarks. It's the very last days before the election. And very unexpectedly and out of nowhere, I feel Joe Biden put his hands on my shoulders, get up very close to me from behind, lean in, smell my hair, and then plant a slow kiss on the top of my head. And that in and of itself might not sound like it's a very serious thing. That in and of itself might sound like it was innocent and well-intentioned. But in the context of it, as a person that had absolutely no relationship with him afterwards, as a candidate who was preparing to make my case for why I should be elected the second in command of that state, to have the vice president of the United States do that to me so unexpectedly and just kind of out of nowhere, it was just shocking. The reason why we're having these conversations about Vice President Joe Biden is because he's considering running for president. And frankly, the reason why I felt so compelled to finally say something was because over the years, as this behavior was documented, as it was frankly dismissed by the media and not taken seriously, that conversation was not coming up in the discussions about whether or not he would, in a complete analysis of his history, of his record, as we go through the vetting process for all of these candidates, that important aspect was being left out, and it was being dismissed, and it wasn't being acknowledged. And for me, that was, one, incredibly offensive, and two, I think really speaks to the fact that when behavior isn't considered quote unquote serious enough for society, for America, it's very easy to dismiss it.
So after that, a couple more women accused Biden for getting out of line and explained it, and Biden explained it in a tweet. Watch this.
Social norms have begun to change, they've shifted, and the boundaries of protecting personal space have been reset. And I get it. I get it. I hear what they're saying. I understand it. And I'll be much more mindful. That's my responsibility. My responsibility, and I'll meet it. But I'll always believe governing, quite frankly, life for that matter, is about connecting with people. That won't change, but I will be more mindful and respectful of people's personal space. And that's a good thing. That's a good thing. I've worked my whole life to empower women. I've worked my whole life to prevent abuse. I've written, and so the idea that I can't adjust to the fact that personal space is important, more important than it's ever been, is just not thinkable. I will.
So apparently Biden's critics say it has that times have changed and it was never appropriate in the first place. So the question is, do you believe Biden's explanation is good enough, and do you believe and or stand with Lucy Flores' claim against Biden? Because back in 2014, she was 35 years old and the nominee for lieutenant governor in Nevada. So what do you think? What do you have to say on that?
I feel like I agree with her. Like, his behavior is very inappropriate. If you're running for president, like, why would you be inappropriate like that? Why would you get too close? Like, you make people feel very uncomfortable. You just gotta know how to be professional. Like, why would you do that in the first place,
I understand what you're saying, but we're dealing with the fact that Joe Biden has always been someone who can feel your pain and will comfort anyone in bad situations like this. So maybe that's why the reason why he did that to not only Lucy Flores, I almost said Lucy Biden. It's Lucy Flores here. And then she did it to other women later on from the past during the time he was still vice president, which I understand that. To me, I understand women do need their space, but you also got to understand that Joe Biden is 76 and he's running for office. And he has always been an affectionate person since the very beginning and ever since he dealt with the death of his son, Beau Biden. Here.
Yeah, I don't care about, like, you could be any age, but that still doesn't give you a right to be, a little bit touchy and make people feel uncomfortable. You got to be professional, especially, like, if you're running for president. There's certain stuff you can't do. And if you're that age, you should definitely know that by now. You can't, like, what happens if someone just comes to you and starts touching you or smelling your hair? Like, you don't know me that way to even do that. Like, you can't, I don't care how old are you.
Well,
you can't do that.
Well, that is true, but, you also got to be aware of, like, who's doing that behind me, but I see what you're saying. But if we know each other, and for the longest, I mean, to me, I wouldn't mind it, but just do it in a respectful way.
I don't care how much I known you,
Right.
even if you're family, I
Yeah.
still don't want you touching me that way. Like, I would feel very uncomfortable. I could have known you for 10 years. I still don't want you to be on me like that. People need their space, and you can't just do that. That's
That is true,
inappropriate.
yes.
You just
I
gotta be
mean-
respectful. Nobody wouldn't want that. They would feel very uncomfortable. So it's just like, as a president, like, if you're running for president, you should just know that. It's just certain stuff you can't do. It's just not professional, and it looks weird. Like.
Yeah, but I don't know, as time goes on, if that really could affect him as he campaigns for running for office, since he's now joined a ton of Democratic runners who are running in 2020.
Yes, I feel like that could affect you, because he even had, like, this happen before with other females. So it's just like people going to really pay attention and notice, like, why does he keep, like, doing this behavior? It's inappropriate. You can't do that. How would you feel if Obama or Trump did that? Like, that would be headline news. You just can't do that.
Well,
It looks
Obama
sexual.
would really just worry me a bit, but we all know the guy in the White House, we know he just likes to touch women inappropriately and grab them by the you-know-where. I mean, it's disgusting.
It is. It's disgusting the way how Joe Biden is acting.
Yeah,
Don't,
I understand.
behavior is
I
not
understand your point, but it's like Joe Biden has been more of a affectionate, personal human being, and as we watched from that Twitter video, he said he'll be more mindful of people's space and respect, and he understands why they need it. And because I know there are times that you may have to take it back a few steps in order to not cross that 180-degree line.
Right.
Otherwise, trouble could occur.
Exactly. And he's a grown man. You know better than that. Like, he should know better than that. You know what's right and what's wrong. And he also been acting like that towards little girls, little females. You could even look it up on YouTube.
I have
It's
seen.
just, what type of behavior is that? I wouldn't want you, like, being my president or running for president if you're acting like that.
Right, but he whispers in, like, people's ears, like you mentioned about what he did with the little girl. I can't remember exactly what he said, but I think he's saying is, like, just to, like, give the person a warning or, like, a life lesson in particular. I don't know what it could be, but this is how Joe Biden is throughout most of his career since the very beginning. So I don't know.
It's just unacceptable. He can't act like that.
Right.
Like, I'm sorry, but you cannot act like that, especially like whispering in little girls' ears. Like, what is it so important that you can't say out to the public?
Right.
It's just, it doesn't make any sense to me.
I understand your point on that, but I know we have to be mindful of people's space. I know we may have a difference of opinion, but I know you don't like Joe Biden, but I do. I don't mind liking Joe Biden, but like the thing is, the message I have to give you, Joe Biden, just you do what you're doing as campaign, but be careful of what you're doing. Try to keep your hands to yourself so you don't get yourself in trouble and you don't come out of the race. Because who knows if another accuser may be coming after you
Exactly.
with something new that you were claiming that you did not do. I know you're more of an affectionate man. I understand that, but a little tip, Biden, just be more mindful and careful of other people's space, okay?
Yeah, and again, you have to set an example. So he's not setting an example for other people who might want to run later on in the future. Like, you just have to set an example and just do the right thing. We all know what you're doing is not right. So it's just very uncomfortable and it looks weird. Like, who does that? Come on.
Well,
Yeah, like, who does that?
well, we'll find out. We'll be right back with more Hot Topics.